Okay. So, thank you all for joining us tonight. And this is the Pisces new moon, which is the last moon in the astrological zodiac before going into this whole influx into Aries, which is going to be a big deal. Sometimes I say these things like, well, I've already said that before, and people are probably like, okay, yeah. But I mean, I really do think, we're making huge shifts with this. And of course, we're having it a day late because Mercury Retrograde, we've been in so intense, kind of zonked, man. I just didn't remember it yesterday. On the 18th, we're doing it actually on March the 19th. And it was actually, it was last night around 8:30ish or something, I think, our time. So we would have been right in the middle of the new moon. Good thing it wasn't a full moon, so it really would have zonked us. But, okay. Anyway, so let's just kind of dive right into this. With the texts and the email I sent out this time, I'm sorry I just haven't had a chance to get astrology people together to send for the writings. I did include a screenshot of what I've been working on with the spreadsheet. Like some of you said, if you're opening up on the phone, it's probably harder to see because it's small if you're looking at a small screen. I've got a huge, 32-inch screen because my computer monitor is a 17-inch, which is large for a laptop, but I needed a much bigger space to see this thing in because there's a lot of detail. And if you figure I've mapped really the entire sky, so I've got the whole zodiac with all 30 degrees, and then I tagged on Pisces at the beginning of Aries to show what's coming into Aries, and I put Aries at the end of Pisces. So I've really got 14 signs going across because I've doubled Pisces and Aries just to be able to see the dynamics. And it actually, what it looks like is really a spaghetti model. It reminds me of, all the hurricane spaghetti models like the meteorologists come up with for New Orleans when things are coming at us. It's like, oh my gosh. It's really busy. And the part that I shared was really where this Mercury retrograde is and all the personal planets, because that's where the action is right now. And it's right on top of this new moon because it's all really part and parcel of what's happening to us on an individual and collective level. So if you actually do get it to a bigger screen, like on a computer, and you can even pull it up on your television monitor if you have a way to do that. But it covers Aquarius, Pisces, and Aries. And with that, of course, you've got Pisces and Aquarius at the beginning of that. All the personal planets are piled up in Pisces right now with the Mercury retrograde, and they've all crossed the Mercury retrograde as of the 15th, just 4 days ago, when Mars and Mercury came over each other. The North Node's there, Vesta's there. The moon has met up with the sun, so the moon is actually in Pisces, creating all this. Pallas Athena's there. You've got wisdom and justice and all these things with that. The Nessus centaur, as I've said the last several times, that it really represents every type and form of abuse, every kind of abuse. It doesn't matter what the abuse is. If it's been an abuse, it's come up. And because it's in Pisces, it can be spiritual abuse. Let's talk about Deepak Chopra and Oprah. God. Cesar Chavez now, the guy that, was trying to do immigrant farming stuff and, stand up for all that. It's like, did I not say we were going to go through huge abuse revelations? And they keep coming. It's just, and the fact that it's sitting right at the Mercury retrograde. I can't believe I articulated this, and it's all really coming out pretty accurately. And of course, it's in the eclipses. because Mercury went retrograde in the eclipse window. And, of course, that just blows everything up even more. And Mercury's going to stay retrograde until the 20th. Actually, tomorrow it goes direct. And it's going to come back to meet up all the personal planets in the next 2 months. It may not hit all of them in Aries. I don't remember. But, Venus has gone into Aries. The Sun, of course, will go into Aries tomorrow, creating the spring equinox. Mars is going to go into Aries. Pallas is going to, all of this is going to go. It's setting up the energy to create the new beginnings as they meet up with Saturn and Neptune at the beginning of Aries, creating all these new dynamics. Saturn for structures and Neptune representing the dream. You can't make this stuff up. And this is all in the tropical zodiac. I've talked about this before. And, again, I could make a case for either zodiac. The tropical is what the Western civilization looks at, and the sidereal is more what Eastern philosophies kind of look at. And they're really about a sign-off. Because, Pisces actually starts at the end of Pisces and goes all the way across Aries. So all this Aries energy would be in Pisces in the sidereal in the Asian cultures. But and part of that could be the way that we're perceiving realities. I think the Asian half of the little blue ball, Earth, do seem to be like in a whole different type of reality creation. And obviously the West, we're certainly in our own. And if you look at what's happening in the world's on fire. Aries is fire sign. Everything is just burning up right now. It's like, and with all the stuff going into, the Sun's going to go into Aries tomorrow on Neptune, with Saturn close. It's just with the moon. The emotional body is the moon. It's all right there together. It's like there's just so much happening. And so it's really no coincidence, I think, of what's been happening. And the Mercury retrograde has been very intense. Mercury retrogrades, it's all about every type of communication. It's cars, it's trains, airplanes. Look at what's happening with the airplanes. Oh my gosh. I saw the New Orleans airport actually made the news the other day because they had lines going all the way out through and into the garage to get in. And I was like, that's crazy. One of my friends, my old boss from the nightclub in New Orleans that lives in Atlanta now, and he was going to come down here and meet his brother on St. Pat's Day. And I told him the previous week, I said, you better cancel that flight and get out of it. He did. He the next day, he'd already been thinking about it anyway. He said, I'm not going. It's crazy. Sandra, you were very lucky if you had 5 flights and you did well, because there's just certain places that you just can't do it. But it really is, the outer world is a reflection of all of this. How should we say that? Okay, so Mercury retrograde, it's all the redos. Recheck this, resource this, make sure what you're doing. Deep dive. The fact it's in Pisces is, that sign represents religion. It represents dreams. It represents really oceanic presence in its highest sense, because it really is not necessarily religions. To me, religion is more about more Capricorn structures. Pisces is really more about the spirit. It's the highly spiritual aspect of who we are, and represented as Mother, Father, God. So the retrograde really was meant to take us deeper into the core of who we are. The fact that all the personal planets were there, Venus, Sun, Mars, Pallas Athena, of course, is justice, Vesta's house and home. The fact they're all meeting up, well, Vesta's close to it. They don't really come in contact with it, but it's close. The moon actually went over it just the 17th, day before. And then, of course, the moon moves really fast, and it's creating the new moon. Well, created last night at 28 degrees. The moon is actually in Aries now at the beginning parts. So it's already met up with Neptune and Saturn today. So we're getting structure in our emotional world with the new dream. The sun's following up behind it. And Venus is going to meet up with the moon. Actually, it's allowed to be later today or at the beginning of the 20th tomorrow on the equinox. I guess it'll probably be earlier in the equinox. The Lilith asteroids there. Chiron and Eris are sitting on top of each other. They're going to be sitting on top of the moon. So that means our wounding. It means Eris, the poor Eris that didn't get to go to the ball. And it's really creating, that aspect really with the moon. It's really working with our emotional body and the wounding deeply in our core emotional self in areas of the self. And there's so much happening in these dynamics. That's the thing. The good thing about all of this, though, is Pluto is sextiling Neptune and Saturn at the beginning of Aries. So it really is a more positive, workable energy as far as transforming who we are and what we want with our dreams. And the Mercury retrograde is just taking us into our core, met up with all the personal planets, and it's coming back forward. And Mercury won't get back into Aries until the 14th of April, so it's going to take almost a month. But Venus will have already gone in, the Sun will have gone in, Mars won't go in until the 9th of April. So this is really about a 2-month process. But Mercury is going to come back over all these places we've been at. Now, the other thing, and I don't think most astrologers don't really talk about the Nessus. Some do, but Mercury's going to come back over Nessus after being retrograded over it on the 8th and 9th of April. So I think there's going to be a lot of forward energy communication with regards to the abuses. But, from here until, I would say until the 14th when Aries goes in, or Mercury goes into Aries, for the next almost, it's 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks, we're still going to have all kinds of communication about abuse. And I don't think it's going to be pretty. We have to face, the core of the dysfunctional aspect of, the fall of humanity. And it's not pretty. The good thing about this is that Mercury is sitting on top of the North Node, which means it's really communicating with where we're going into our future. And it's at 8 Pisces, of course, the nodes go backwards. So it's like we're going on a backward journey through our emotional development, but we're always constantly moving forward because the planets, of course, move forward. But I do think, starting by the end of the month, Mercury is going to be about 4 degrees away, moving away from the North Node. We'll have all of the new information that we need for the new beginnings, and this is it's personal and collective as well. This is it's a very wide thing here. The other thing I had mentioned, I think before, and this is worth mentioning again, Mars and Pallas Athena are going to be sitting on top of each other on top of Nessus on March the 20. They're approaching on the 27th. Well, they're approaching now, by the 25th. But they're going to be in a sharp, that whole last week of March. You've got Mars of action, Pallas Athena of justice on top of Nessus. I think the last week of March is going to be just a lot of action with regards to wisdom and justice on top of abuse and powers and things. So you may see a lot of things in court, and Mercury's coming along right behind it all. So, and of course, and that actually takes it 2 weeks into April. So just a lot happening. And before we got into the actual call, we were just discussing all of us, kind of what's happening out there in the world. And actually, before I get on that, by the time we get to April 1st, the next moon will be on April 1st. April Fool's Day, woohoo! And it's going to be at 12 degrees of Aries. I'm sorry, it's going to be a full moon in Libra. The sun is in Aries, but the moon is in Libra. So that moon, full moon, is Libra is the other, whatever it is, but the sun is in the I am presence. So it's really going to be lighting up, I think, things to do with relationships. And the sun just happens to be on my natal Venus, so that should be interesting. Don't know what that'll look like. But it's really going to start to move us into working with relationship. And that's every kind of relationship outside of ourselves, the way we perceive ourselves as God. I mean, family, friends, business, whatever. It's the whole thing. It just depends on, other dynamics in which you'll be working with. So, okay, back to what I was going to say. So we were talking about, how we feel like so much is breaking apart. And so I was talking to my cousin the other day, and I told her, I said, when I just sit in meditative state and I just, have the field inform me of what's happening, we're going through the greatest disintegration of the morphogenetic field, what makes us up as a collective, that I think we've ever gone through. I think we're going through it exponentially. That's happening because I think Neptune, the way we dream, 160-year pattern, we've left that behind. It's in Aries. We're really trying to get some footing on this and figure out who the hell we are. Saturn is there with structures, but we're still, because the personal planets are all approaching and going over it, they don't really give us, we're not really getting a sense of all that, I don't think, until that's done. Now, Venus was going over Neptune and Saturn around the 6th to the 11th. So that's Venus is the emotional body and its core. The next few days, the sun, of course, will go into Aries tomorrow, meet up to Neptune within the next couple days after that with the spring equinox. The sun will then meet up with Saturn by the 24th and 25th. So the sun is, giving life expression to the new dream and Saturn, the structures. Then when Mars goes in on the 9th of April, it will meet up with Neptune around the 12th, 13th, and then Saturn around the 18th and 19th. Then when Mercury gets into Aries, it will go over Neptune around the 16th, 17th. It will then catch up to Saturn around the 20th, 21st, and then the very next day it goes over Mars. So with this much personal planet activity crossing over in Aries, it really is, I think it's resetting us from our core. And again, this is the tropical zodiac, which is Western philosophy and perception of reality. And the flip side to it, of course, if you're looking at sidereal astrology, all of this personal planet stuff from about April on is really happening in Pisces. So, and again, Pisces is our highest spirituality. It's oceanic presence to me. It represents cosmic awareness. I mean, there's so many different layers to this. So the fact that you've got Aries a fire sign in one sense, Pisces is a water sign in the other sense. I think both are at play as far as the way you can interpret it. And I mean, I've read different types of interpretations between the Vedics, astrology-wise, and of course, the traditional tropical astrologers, which is most everybody I send you, because they still feel very real. They still feel accurate. energetically as far as what's happening. And I do think that the tropical zodiac, more than anything, I think represents the third dimensional reality for Western culture, and I think the other one represents more of what's happening in the Asian cultures. And I think that difference is represented in the overall cultural differences in between the West and the East. So, some people may say, oh, well, this one's more true or that one's more true. What if they're both true? And the truth is so much more vast even than that. I mean, the astrology can help you, again, understand what's happening on a lot of different levels of energetics, as far as mental and emotional processing, soul progression, journey-wise. But when you go even beyond that, who are you beyond all of that? And that's where I think, we're working on these calls to go into that part. And I think, it's one thing to observe the outer world of form. Again, that's being in the world but not of the world. And we really don't want to get caught up in all that stuff. I mean, the one thing I do know is happening is we have to go through very deep disintegration to clear the decks, to build something new and sustainable, but not on the old. And, I mean, we're still going through all this stuff. And, new moons, again, are new beginnings, new creations. But because this moon is happening with the Mercury Retrograde, and, all of this other kind of destruction at the end of Pisces, which is the end of Zodiac, it's, I think I said this in the email yesterday. It's like all of these endings right now are the same thing as it's like new beginnings are coming from the endings. So if you do have all these energies that are ending because of the Mercury retrograde and these difficult aspects, they're coming in from different places, know that I think it's going to transition to new beginnings really fast. I mean, within 2 months anyway, I think. The other thing I wanted to do tonight, since I did not have a chance to get some of this stuff out to you guys, was why did I do that? I could have the most weird things. Okay, here we go. Sometimes I've included little video snips of Evan Nathaniel Grimm. He's one of the astrologers who lives out in Los Angeles, but he really is. He's very grounded. He's very matter of fact. He's very, I think, right on with the energies of things. And he was talking about today, and this is a really just short thing. So I'm going to play it for you because I want you to hear this. Because it talks about the really good stuff that's happening with this energy. I mean, in the midst, I think, of the stuff that's falling apart. So I'm just going to play this really quick and let y'all listen in, if I can make it come up. All right, where are we at? Oh, I've got to unmute him. Okay, here we go.
And it's like a threefold utopian dream, like a crisp three-part harmony. Number one, it's relieving us of eclipse season and helping us move through a gateway into a new cycle. Secondly, it's a new cycle of clarity because less than 2 days after the new moon, Mercury stations direct on the north node in Pisces. So this is a brilliant moment where the light breaks through the waters we're swimming in, and it illuminates the vast scope of possibilities all around us. Third of all, a couple hours before Mercury stations direct, the astrological new year begins as the sun ingresses into Aries. These 3 consecutive cosmic events should alleviate the confusion, fog, and stress that you may have been feeling while Mercury was retrograde in Pisces. By the time this upcoming weekend is over, you'll receive signals from the universe that you should absolutely have faith in your biggest ideas. Something that maybe felt like a crazy, hazy dream during Mercury retrograde is coming into focus. And as you start to focus on it, you'll realize that there are some steps you can take that will get you closer to the dreams you've always had ever since you were a kid. And you're taking action soon because remember, Aries is all about trying new things. daring to blaze a new trail. But the seed of this action is the initial unfiltered dream that comes back to you on this Pisces new moon. Gemini, Pisces, Sagittarius, and Virgo are especially well positioned to revamp critical areas of their lives. Pisces are beginning a new voyage. They're exploring the most distant regions of their imaginations and embodying their dreams here on the physical plane. Virgos are either experiencing the bliss of a relationship that has finally stabilized, or they're seeing the incredible potential of a new relationship. Sagittariuses are establishing a peaceful sanctuary within their homes, or they're relocating to a place that unlocks their dreams. Gemini should be aiming high on this new moon and can elevate into a vocation or career that supports a no-limits mindset. There's endless amounts of growth attached to this new role that you're adopting, and you can have a massive impact on whatever industry you're in. And in the days after this new moon, everyone should feel rejuvenated and alive. So what dream of yours have you been too afraid to believe in up until now?
So, I mean, that really does sum it up really good. Normally I don't play someone else's stuff for you guys like that, but it really, I think, articulates just how much of it, I think, a new beginning this particular moon is. And again, I do think it comes from the kind of like the loss of all of the whatever it is that's falling apart. It's like we want to let it fall apart. We want to, have it in such a way where we just don't have to have the energy or the dysfunction of anything that's not working. And actually, let me see. I think I saw something with Pam Gregory. She had written something about it. She's always really good with this stuff, but I haven't even listened to her thing on it. Let me see. She just basically talks about, the new moon at the end of the degree of the zodiac, shedding and surrendering, which we carry forward. She says here, whether it's relationship, job, home, habit, be conscious of all that. Pisces is magical. New moon holds transformation on the world axis. And that's the other thing. It's right on the world axis, going in between the end of the zodiac and the beginning. And that's why this is so potent. And of course, we had the actual equinox. I mean, just 37 hours later, she talks about here. So it's like you've got all these new interests and all these things. But basically, they were both saying this kind of the same thing. And of course, she talks about the crumbling, chaotic world around us. It's like, you definitely don't want to be caught up just in it. But the fact that, when she talks about Mercury moving direct, when that happens, she says all planets are going to go direct until May the 6th, when Pluto goes retrograde. So that's going to be like basically 2 months, about 6 weeks. It'll be all of April, the rest of this month, and or a weekend into May. When you have the whole stellium or the grouping of planets in Aries in primal fire. But it really is, creating a whole energy of, how shall we say, just, it's almost like a phoenix rising. That's really kind of what I get out of it. Different people write about that, they talk about it, but I really think that's kind of the energy that we're going into. And so, we'll see what all this looks like, as we get through it. But let me see if there was anything else that I wanted to notate here. The other thing that, they've talked about too at different times, Jupiter just went direct. So anything that's happening and that's in Cancer, that's, house and home and how you make a home and all that. Again, you've got that 3-eye Atlas is sitting right there on top of it. Who knows if 3-eye Atlas has really moved out of the solar system yet? Some people say it's going to sit there and kind of hover until it gets out. But I do think that brings cosmic awareness with Jupiter in the way we make a home. How do we see a home? It can be home in your heart. It can be home in your physical home. All of those things make a difference. And so it's like, that's in Cancer. So that's actually trining the 3 Atlas is trining all of this Mercury retrograde in Pisces. So, Pisces and Cancer, those are emotional, they're water signs. So it really is taking us into our core. And I think it's working positively to bring all that up. Now, although we've got, all this Nessus and abuse stuff, you can't really, again, build anything good until you see all the bad. And you don't want to focus on the bad, but it's one of those things where you have to put light in the places where it's just not been in so long. So we're going to continue to see those things break apart in the next 2 months. So just kind of, don't pay attention to it. Don't get caught up into it. Don't go down this awful rabbit hole. But do be cognizant of it and aware. And like for me, like Evan was just talking about, it's like, what have you been dreaming of? What have you been working on? It's like, we've put so many things on a back burner for so long. This spreadsheet, I've been talking about this spreadsheet for 2 years. But I really think that I'm close to, this is the time that's going to be supported to get it out. At the same time, I've still got this other whole dynamic that's become my life, which is the caregiving part with all of the older people. And my dad's accelerating into a different set of perception of reality. It's bizarre. His habits are changing, foods are changing. What he will do and what he won't do. And the other aunts, there's, different things we're dealing with medical stuff. I think I've got like half the month of March, I've got red things written around probably over half the days. That's that many doctor's appointments in this month. It's not quite as bad into next, but it's a lot. Now, part of that is the Mercury retrograde in Pisces, because it's taking us to our core. So I think a lot of older people have been taken to the core. There's been a lot of death. That's another thing that's really happened with this. And a lot of people leave on eclipses. I know people here that have checked out. And there's always an acceleration. But, again, part of it, again, is I'll go back to the, what I've talked about, the morphogenetic field. The field is shifting to an extent where if anyone is playing out in old timelines and old realities, if they're playing out in frequencies that are no longer supported with them, that they are choosing to leave during this time because they can't sustain the energetics coming in. They can't sustain the vastness of the light quotients, the adamantine particles that are hitting the planet. The soul progression just can't go any additional amount. And part of that really, I think, goes back, and I've always said this, and it's true, each individual genetic inheritance, individually and collective, even as groups, we're still playing with all of that. The past has still been with us for so long. And, if you're in a place where things are going great for you, then you've made some really good decisions for yourself, and you've been able to release family dynamics that held you in strangulation mode or kept you held back, and you've transcended a lot. I'm imagining, and then of course, some people's karmic inheritance has been really difficult, and so, for the ones of you that talked about how things are just like, okay, it's not been great, but we're still going through paces. We're still at the end part of letting some of that stuff go, and we're always at a choice point, of course, but we really are at a critical junction, because we have to decide how we put ourselves forward first and then assist others. We have to do that. And I've not been a poster child for putting myself first necessarily, because I'm always putting somebody else first, because people just don't have anybody or anything else. And so I have found myself in my own quagmire of, how do you balance that out? How can you be there for somebody else, but also attend what you need to do and what your soul came here to do? Because I certainly haven't. I've been putting off, doing this video, putting this, to a spreadsheet and putting that out. But it just hadn't felt like the right time yet, and it just keeps, but it's like anything else. You keep kicking the can down the road until it's there. But I'm hoping, with everything lined up the way it is, this will be the release time. And the fact that all these are in Aries, it's where my Aries stellium is. My Saturn, my Venus, my Chiron, my Mercury, my Sun, the North Nodes. I've got all of that, Eris, all in Aries. It's crazy. Stephanie Azari said she couldn't wait to talk to me all day that first time, because she said, you got all this stuff in Aries. I'm like, yeah. There's a lot there. So hopefully that energy is going to be very supportive of me in transitioning into and turning on my new whatever it is. And maybe these planets getting in, to Aries in the next month will help shift all that. But back to what we had talked about kind of before, that there is a disintegration happening, and it's happening on a multidimensional level. And I know that's hard for people to hear and try to understand what it means, but it's the energy field that ties us all together, and there is a disintegration in the frequency that's happening with all that. And if you look at the external world of form, don't look too hard, don't attach to any of it. But if you look at what's happening, yes, we're being drawn back into wars, and there's also multi-level answers to questions that people have. In one sense, you might want to take out a regime somewhere because the people are repressed. They're they kill their like Iran. It's awful. It's just, but it's like, how do you go in and take out the quote bad guy, and then you become the bomber and doing all these things, and you're creating a destabilization. And yet, when people are in such a place of limitation because of people above them are basically holding them in strangulation, how do you break free from that? Sometimes an outside force has to come in and break apart whatever's happening for you to make a better decision going forward. Does it necessarily mean it's good for us? Not necessarily. It's messy, and that's the dynamic. And you can't look at anything as black and white. I'm not saying we should have gone in. I'm not saying we shouldn't have gone in. I'm not going to take a stand on it one way or the other. What I'll say is this. With everything that we're doing, you can either choose to go that way or go the other way. And there's no right or wrong decisions here. And if you look at big picture dynamics, you really do want every human being on the planet to be able to be free. We have so much freedom here in the United States, and so many other countries are in so much limitation that are projected onto it. We're living in a prison planet with regards to so many of the other cultures and countries. And at the end of the day, I think a lot of choices have been made based on money, and who can maximize money at the top. And if you knew how much money the Congress of the United States have increased, their personal wealth, that's insane. It's not very nice. It's not fair to anyone here in this country. It's not fair to anybody else anywhere else. But if all the money that had been gained in personal bank accounts for the United States, House of Representatives and Senate, it's massive. So, again, I'm not here to debate politics in this. This isn't about a political thing. It's about energy. It's about frequency. And it's about freeing every type of enslavement around the planet. And sometimes you just got bulls and china shops that are going to break that apart. And change is not pretty. It's just not. I don't know what this is going to look like. I really have no idea. I don't think we're going to be allowed to go into nuclear war. I don't think we're allowed to go into atomic stuff. I've actually been reading some things that they have suggested that what happened in Japan was not necessarily an atomic attack. They blew it up to make it look like it, to create the fear-based reality. It did not mean that there wasn't huge devastation, but some of the claims have been that it wasn't necessarily an atomic event that took it out. It was such vast amount of bombing that it looked like a complete wipeout. I mean, I don't know how true that would be, but again, I mean, this energy, this Mercury retrograde, it's going back into deep truth. Anything that was a lie, anything that was hidden, and it represents past abuses of every kind. So I think if there's any kind of truth that has to come out, if it wasn't in complete truth, I think all that's going to surface. And I think as it does, some things that we've been taught during history, we're going to find out were false. And I've been saying this for a long time. And I really think the next couple months is a big, big part of that. So we'll see what happens. I mean, again, don't get too attached with what's on the news. Just let it come, let it flow through. Don't attach to it. Don't get drawn in because it doesn't serve you. It really doesn't. I mean, we have to observe the external world, but we don't want to be the external world. And at the same time, I've said this so many times, there's no separation, though. So how can you be present for all these things that have to come to light without, going into becoming any of it? So let me see. Was there anything else that? So as far as how to work with this energy going forward, I think it's really important, that we just stay in our hearts and we ask ourselves, what is the highest potentiality of creation, and go beyond whatever box you've been in. I mean, sometimes it's really challenging when, the circumstances of our lives just keep us down, keep us, grounded into whatever it is we're in. Sometimes it's really hard to fly and create, in a really vast way when the dynamics have you kind of squelched and pulled back. And I'm speaking on personal experience with that for sure. And again, I'm not a poster child for this stuff. But we really, I think, are at a place where the new beginnings are happening. I think the energy is there to assist in it. But I also think that we're in a discernment where there's still some very muddy, murky waters out there where people, lower dimensional kind of stuff tries to still pull us down. So I would say be, just heartful and mindful of what you're thinking about, how you interact with people. But the main thing is, just stay in your heart, of course, and create from your highest potentiality. But again, like Evan said, and of course, Pam has always said this too in the astrology too, but it's like, what is your highest potentiality of creation, and just work on creating that, and don't get caught up in all the other, because anything else is pulling you away from your soul contract and highest potential is just keeping you down in lower frequency. So, yeah. Okay, it's almost 9 o'clock. I blink, and then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, where'd that go? Yeah. So I think that about sums up most of everything I wanted to cover with anything like that. Sometimes I feel like I'm a little bit repetitive with this stuff, but at the same time, it's almost like this is something else I was thinking about when I think about, am I being repetitive with this or that, or which dynamic we're working with. But part of it, I guess, is true. But the other interesting part of that is the fact that, we are constantly observing ourselves where time is breaking down, linear time, as it were. And so if we're just in the immediacy of the moment, it's like we're not moving forward. We're just shifting the way we perceive ourselves in the movie. It's like we're always in the same place, but as we release the scripts, as we release all the identifications, that always leaves us now. We're always in the now moment. We're not in a past. We're not in a future. We're no longer referencing that. So if we're in that space, then it's almost like every time we have these calls, we're kind of going through and articulating similar things to an extent, and yet we're still constantly shifting. And I know it's almost like a paradox. Because, sometimes I'll even feel like, okay, that seems like a repetition. Oh, and the other thing, I meant to find that and send it to you guys. It was something I saw on Facebook the other day. Laura Eisenhower had shared it with someone that she had worked with. And she was talking about the multidimensional stuff, but she was also talking about all of these portals all around the world. And she was talking about a portal in Iran, and that's what they're fighting about, is a portal in Iran. So who knows? But it's a powerful portal. And she was talking about the multidimensional breakdown of what's happening in our reality and how we perceive reality. And I was like, oh my God, that really makes sense. And most people, again, are not thought, created to think in that way. But I've said this a lot, that it's a frequency war. And but what if there are portals all around the Earth that have been guarded by different people for different time periods, and some people have been in charge of portals that haven't necessarily used them in their highest potential, but they used it for control grid manipulation. And what if we are having all sorts of multidimensional disintegration where the timelines are collapsing? And we've talked about this a long time, and Jude's talked about it for 30 years, I guess, or more. But I do think that is also happening. It's almost like all of the above is true. Anyone that talks about bigger and deeper things, why does anything have to be mutually exclusively true at the expense of anything else? And when you've got 8 billion people on the planet, you've got a large group that perceive reality this way, a large group that have it this way. So as we're sitting in all of it, and we feel all of that falling apart, it can be very just destabilizing. And the physical body feels destabilized, the mental body, the emotional body, spiritual, and we can feel like we're in the nothing place. So maybe that can give an answer to some of the stuff that we were talking about earlier. Each one of you had a different way to kind of question where we're at, what's happening, and I think in a nutshell, that would answer a lot of the questions of where you are if you kind of removed yourself from the bigger dynamic, just putting yourself on the side and then stepping out of, the mess and the misery of it all. I don't know if that helps or if it's more confusing. But I do think it's getting more confusing, just because the energy is that chaotic, it's that sporadic, it is. It's challenging. And it's not something we have to fear, for sure. But yeah, it's a lot. So okay, well, that was interesting timing. We had a little clock go off at 9 o'clock. Ding dong, ding dong. So we ended up with still 10. Well, actually 9 people, because my computer represents a person on here. So 9 of us. That's 9 is completion. So we're the perfect 9 people that are bringing a completing energy to, this particular journey with all of these calls, I think. And yeah, so I'm good with that. Okay, well, on that note, I think we will go ahead and start to go into meditation. And we will reset our energies. So if you're already in your nice and quiet space, then that is awesome. If you're not, then kind of go ahead and get there. I'm going to work on putting myself in that, because I am ready to be in some transformative energy. I think we're all ready to be in transformative energy. And of course, as I always say, when we do this, we're doing it for each other, that's for sure. Because all of our frequencies align to expand the energy. I feel like I'm spaced out. Maybe I am. But yeah, I mean, the fact that, again, we're in this Mercury Retrograde thing, I think it really is, this whole thing has been taking us to our core. And I think people are very destabilized. It's hard to focus. And yeah, I do think a lot of people are already creating their new stuff, whatever it is. And again, whatever the creations are unique depending on where people are in the soul contract with the soul evolution. But it's also one of the things to take great care in what you're creating, because it's very potent energy. And I mean, I've been in those moments before too, where you think you're creating something really wonderful, something you want, and then you may create it and you're like, oh, I really shouldn't have done that. Because there's something either you're missing in bigger picture dynamics or, what is it? At the same time, though, we still have to make a decision. You can't just keep putting off and putting off and putting off, hoping that circumstances are going to be better, this is going to be different, this will be... I mean, there is no better than or less than. That doesn't exist. All there is the current moment and making a decision to move forward with something. It doesn't mean you cannot keep the dynamic open where you can easily say, okay, I've tried this, I don't want this. So don't deeply commit to something unless it's just in the core of your bones, especially with Mercury retrograde right now. I mean, again, it goes direct in 2 days, but to really clear the shadow, you really want it to, wait another couple weeks. I would say until April 1st, really, to get past the way that energy would be. I'm trying to remember. Actually, I'm gonna have to pull it up. I want to see when it makes up its shadow here. Um, let's see, where's age? Age up. Okay, it went retrograde on 21 degrees. So by April the 9th, Mercury will have made up its shadow. Oh, and it does it basically when it hits Nessus of all this abuse. Wow. Okay. But by the 14th, Mars will already be in Aries and Mercury will get in Aries. I mean, I think by then we'll be safely creating whatever it is that we're doing. At least know more in our core what's happening. So, okay. Well, let's get still and just take a couple of deep breaths. And if there's, and again, I always, mention this when we go into the meditation parts. If there's something you really want to release, this is the time. This is a new moon, but because Mercury's retrograde, about to go direct, it's still a good release time because whatever we release, it allows and clears space for the new to come in. And if you're in a place where you think, it's in a difficult spot, it's still a good energy to do that with. So I still have this kind of like cough and little just remnant stuff from, God, this has been like a month ago or 6 weeks. I don't remember how long it was ago. I was feeling sick with all that. This stuff just hangs on. I mean, it really is a frequency war, and it's in our bones. So it's very hard to shift. Excuse me. Okay. So on that note, we'll go deep dive. I may mute myself so I don't cough. I think that's what I'll do. Okay. Here we go. Okay, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and end the recording part.